He's done it. 4. Balotelli. Aguero. Cahill. Cahill. Tim Cahill has done it again. What a goal by Tim Cahill.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Premier League Nightclub podcast. My name is Damon, and with me for probably the final time, it'll just be you and me, Sammy, for a while, hopefully. So
That's
yeah,
if we don't fire Woody.
that is true, and I think that pretty much might be the start and ending line of this podcast. But Sam, we've got like a little makeshift setup here today, don't we?
We do. We're on my bedroom floor, which is a bit unconventional.
The weather has been horrific, so we pretty much had to umbrella the equipment here.
Inside. But we love the rain. It's good for the bushfires.
Yeah, we're not complaining about it.
But, a bit of a makeshift here. I've got I lost the table that I had here last week, so that doesn't help. But I've just got the house carpeted, so it's nice and...
Hopefully the sound's good.
It's nice to sit on.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
We're all right.
Alrighty, Sam, we had a big week in the Premier League. Of course, just 2 of the top 10 won on the weekend, which is incredible.
That's an incredible round of football.
And one of the big 6, and obviously that was Liverpool, over Man United.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you can't really count that in the terms of, is United a big club anymore? I don't really know, Dave.
Well, is Arsenal, is so many of these teams.
Tottenham?
Yeah, everybody is hopeless. And in fact, in our notes here, we've got the top 4 race is a joke. That's
absolutely
the name of this episode, well, for us anyway. Sammy, do you want to do it again, or for the final time?
I think I'm going to savour this moment. I'm going to do it.
Give us those quick fire results.
I'm just going to go with what I feel. I don't care if I change the order of the goals. I don't even care if I don't tell you what the score was.
Do what feels natural.
I'm just going to do what feels natural, and we'll go from there.
Go.
So, Watford drew with Tottenham 0-0. Brighton drew with Villa 1-0. City drew with Palace 2-0. West Ham drew with Everton 1-0. Arsenal drew with Sheffield 1-0. Norwich beat Bournemouth 1-0. Southampton lost to the Wolves 3-2. Newcastle down Chelsea 1-0. Burnley got the job over Leicester 2-1. And Liverpool did what they just keep doing and beat United 2-0.
That was good. That was very good. In fact, I don't think you started once there, Sam. So
I don't think I did either. And just on that last game, United...
Keeping in mind, we are about to talk about
United, but it was a costly game with Rashford ruled out.
It was. And should we just get stuck straight into that injury in that game?
I think, prior to the game, after 3 months with 2 stress fractures in his back, he left them even a vulnerable United at best of times this year, even more vulnerable because he has been quite their best player, to be honest.
He sure has been. And now let's get stuck into that game, and it is Liverpool versus Manchester United.
Here's Salah. He's got a run on goal. He's still going. And Salah for Liverpool! Have a little bit of that! Mohamed Salah wraps it up, and the roof comes off the famous old stadium once again.
Yeah, Sammy, Liverpool, for the most part, pretty much just dominated the game. 2-0 was maybe a fair scoreline, maybe a 3-1 could have been what it could have been. But for the most part, the result was fair.
It was just another step in Liverpool's road to dominance throughout the year. So I don't think you're going to look at it too harshly in terms of United because they're coming in, they weren't expected to win. But then again, it was a costly loss in the grand scheme of things, given Chelsea lost as well, which makes it interesting. So
I'm going to ask you something here, Sammy. Let's just say, not Chelsea, let's just say Liverpool didn't get the win on the weekend and still went on to win the title. Would Liverpool fans care that they didn't beat Man United in the season they won the league, or is that irrelevant?
I think that's completely irrelevant.
Completely irrelevant?
To be honest. We know United and Liverpool have a go way back in terms of history, but there's no question about Liverpool's dominance over the year. That's what's going to be remembered. It's not going to be remembered that United could beat Liverpool. You know what I mean? Who remembers? I'm
pretty sure the 08-09 season, which is very largely considered United's best ever team, Liverpool actually didn't lose to them that season, but no one remembers that.
No one cares about that. It's like Richmond winning the 2019. Who remembers who beat Richmond last year, Damon? I don't. I just remember we won the flag.
I just remember winning 13 games in a row or something, whatever it was. It was good stuff.
It's pretty good. Now, Damon, we won't go too much into the tactics this week about this game specifically, but we saw Ole go into the game with very similar tactics to the reverse fixture earlier this season that actually saw United earn a draw against the league leaders. So why didn't it work this time for them?
Well, it's a really interesting one because I think looking at the game, you'd actually have to say that a lot of what Solskjaer wanted to get out of the game, he got. Williams nullified Alexander-Arnold reasonably well. I know he got the assist, but that was off a corner. Yeah. Luke Shaw is a left centre-back. First time I'd ever seen him playing there. And to be honest with you, he probably played his best game for the season. Martial and James in behind the fullbacks, exactly the same as last time as strikers, worked, again, reasonably well.
Yeah.
And, you know, Pereira obviously behind them, who, again, failed to find that final pass. But other than that, he played his role to his ability. I think,
yeah.
You know, speaking of ability, it's pretty much just a case of, I thought United tactically delivered as best as they could and they still got hammered.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what the lists are at the moment, isn't it? Because we see Liverpool, the momentum they've got, they just keep finding a way to get the job done. United, on the other hand, not in that space at the moment. And we saw that teams on paper, there's no match anymore. With Rashford out as well, it was just the confidence, the players, and that's what got them the job.
Yeah, well, you know, now it is Schmeichel, Henderson, and Alisson all have the equal most clean sheets in the league. Schmeichel's played 23, Henderson's played 22, and Alisson's played 14 games.
Yeah, jeez.
So it's just a reflection of how good Liverpool have been, specifically the last 2 months. I don't think they've conceded since they conceded to Everton, and that was last year. Yeah. So, that goes to show how good Liverpool are.
It also goes to show how well they've recruited over these past 2 seasons, but I don't want to go into that.
Yeah, we should do it all the time. I think one thing to point out, though, is the difference in how Liverpool approached the game compared to the one at Old Trafford, and that was a lift from their midfield that probably let them down a little bit last time around. The two I want to specifically talk about is Wijnaldum and Jordan Henderson. I thought those two, statistically, probably on the ball, it doesn't show it, but watching the game, that they were unbelievable in midfield and really stepped up for, because they almost probably knew that Robertson and Arnold weren't going to be whipping balls in every 2 seconds like they like to. They both, 34 passes and 36 passes respectively, but it was the 100% tackle rate of Wijnaldum and 80% tackle rate of Henderson. 9 of 11 duels Henderson won. Wijnaldum 3 successful take-ons. Wijnaldum won 10 of his 15 duels. Like, every 50-50 ball, they were either nullifying it or winning.
And this is what you need, and this is what United lack in their midfield at the moment, is that presence.
Exactly.
And it's something that they can take from that game and be like, this is what we need.
Yeah, and it reminds me of last season when Fabinho pretty much ran the show at Anfield in a 3-1 win over United. A lot of people thought that Liverpool might struggle without that presence, but Wijnaldum and Henderson have taken up the role incredibly well. So, it's a credit to them.
Yeah.
And I just think that personally, that's exactly what Liverpool needed to do, and they did it.
Definitely. And although we've spoken about Liverpool's midfield being good and United's being quite bad, I think there's one person we need to talk about from United who I actually thought couldn't do any more than what he did on the day, and that's Fred. I mean, he attempted the most passes. He had 71, and his most successful was 59 out of 71. It's a good rate. So he 4 interceptions, 3 successful take-ons, tackles 1, 3, and 2 key passes. I mean, you can't ask for much more from a midfielder
whose team's getting dominated.
Team's getting absolutely dominated in the midfield.
Yeah.
So he's done his job there, and I think he needs more help around him. But I think he's worth a shout out because you can't always group everyone into the same boat.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there was, as I said, Luke Shaw probably played his best game for the season at left centre back, and I thought Lindelof did really well to cover an Aaron Wan-Bissaka who probably had his worst game for the season, didn't really enjoy the wing-back role too much. Now, Liverpool have now won 91 out of a possible 93 points in the last year. That is incredible. Incredible. They haven't lost since the first week of 2019.
I haven't heard any. That's insane.
Unbelievable. And, they now, if Leicester, I think Leicester are second. Or I think Man City are second, actually. Yeah. Whoever's second right now, if they win every single game and Liverpool win every single game, Liverpool will win the title against Manchester City. And that not only win them the title, that'll beat the Arsenal record of most games gone undefeated in a row. Can you imagine if they actually managed to keep going until then? To win the league against the team that's probably stole it from the 2 out of the last 5 seasons and then beat the Arsenal record, it'd be unbelievable. But I think Liverpool fans just want the league. They don't care how they do it.
27 years has been it's a long time to wait.
It is.
They deserve it.
They certainly do. All right. Are we happy to wrap that game up?
I think we're happy to wrap that one up
Yeah.
now. Let's move on to what is it, Damon?
Winners and losers. Oi, did someone say winners and losers?
Sure did, mate.
Alrighty, Sammy, I'm going to kick this one off, and I'm going to kick it off because it's a team that Woody really, took under his wing other than Sheffield at the start of the year, and that was the Wolves. And the Wolves came back from 2-0 down on the weekend for the second time in just a matter of weeks, of course, did it against Manchester City. We spoke about the impact Raul Jimenez has had, especially in that first part of the year, and he bagged 2 along with Neto, who scored the first one for the Wolves. I just think Nuno Santo's got this team working so well together where history suggests they shouldn't be, especially with this European football they're playing. And, another reason they're my winner is because Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal, Sheffield, all dropping points around them. They sit 6th, equal with United in 5th on points.
Yeah.
I think they're in a really, really good position to bolster that squad now and become a serious threat for even, top 4.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more, Dan. Good call. So mine this week is Sheffield. So the Blades, yet again, as Woody would like to say, but they proved to be one of the toughest teams to beat in the league, and especially that away from home. So they did ride their luck a little bit against Arsenal, where they probably deserved a penalty, so that tackle on Pepe. However, that wasn't given, and Scotsman John Fleck punished the Gunners to make it 1-1 with very little time remaining. So they keep themselves in the hunt for the European leagues, which is what we love.
That would be insane if they could. There's so many teams around that 6th or 5th to about 9th that are looking for those Europa League spots. And
they're up for grabs. Which
they
is
are.
The best
No
thing.
one wants them. No one wants them at all.
Everyone's doing all they can to not get them.
Yeah.
And the Blades are just going to come through. Blades and Wolves, mate.
Could you imagine, Woody? He's going to be unbearable. Anyway, my loser of the week is, I've gone for a mixture here, and it's Bournemouth and their manager, specifically Eddie Howe. Now, I've written here down, and that's pretty much just sums up where they're going. Because, look, it was simply must win on the weekend, and instead, Cook, your namesake Sam, pulled off a big time save. Unfortunately, he's not a goalkeeper, and he got sent off, and Norwich ended up winning from that penalty 1-0. They now sit second bottom, 3 points and goal difference from safety. Look, in the last 6 to 12 months, Eddie Howe's been linked as probably the 3rd or 4th favourite in the jobs of the likes of Arsenal, Man United, Spurs, even Everton and West Ham recently. But he's about to relegate this squad. This squad. And if you look at the squad, like Callum Wilson hasn't scored a Premier League goal 14 games. He was on fire at the start of the season. He's a quality player. And, you look at the drop in form of Fraser and Ake, Chelsea have not wanting to buy him back. They had the option to buy him back, and they've just said nah.
Yeah.
So it's a reflection of how poor they've been, and they're in big trouble now, and so is Eddie Howe's employment status.
Fair enough, though. So mine this week is actually Chelsea, who we've been singing their praises for a bit this season so far, given their situation. But United playing Liverpool this week, as we already spoke about, a win to Chelsea would have almost guaranteed them an 8-point lead ahead of 5th. So what an opportunity they missed against Newcastle. They really had some troubles at home. We've seen them lose to Southampton and Bournemouth already, who you just spoke about, Damon. But I don't think anyone saw a 1-0 loss at home coming against Newcastle. So now, their next 2 games, they've got Arsenal and Leicester, and Lampard is really going to start to feel the heat of what it's like to be a manager.
Yeah, he's going to start coming under pressure, isn't he? I think
is.
Lampard, it's not like he's going to get sacked.
He's not going to lose his job. Let's just get that. But the pressure's starting to come.
Yeah, and people will start questioning, of course, we lots to talk about Solskjaer's resume, but at the end of the day, Lampard managed 1 season with Derby and didn't get them promoted. So he's essentially achieved nothing.
Lampard does have the backing of the fact that he has had no transfer window this year, though. So they're going to give him, no matter what, this can be an anomaly season. And I think, as I've spoken about before, this season is going to prove invaluable come 3 years. So that's what I think.
Sam's a big call, but to be honest, the way the likes of Kovacic and Mount's probably had a little bit of a drop off in form.
Tammy, though.
Yeah. all these guys, they're going to have on and off days, but they're going to be good, good for the long run.
That's what you got to come to expect from youngsters, though, man.
That is true.
That's always going to happen, especially as the season goes on. They get tired.
Speaking of getting tired,
here we go.
this Manchester City team that we thought was unbeatable at times, especially 12 months ago, they now look half the team they were, and they came up against Pep's bogey team, to be honest, and that was Crystal Palace. So let's now have a look at Manchester City versus Crystal Palace.
Zaha. Connor Wickham waiting in the centre. Taking on John Stone. Zaha, own goal! 2-2. Final minute of the 90. Palace didn't give it up.
I'll tell you what, Sam. This one was one of the more bizarre games of the year. Because if you watched the game, not a lot happened. And it's so rare for a Manchester City game
to be boring.
Yeah, and it was 2-2. But really, only the last 10 minutes were interesting.
Yeah.
City created next to nothing, just 6 shots on target, and for their lofty standards,
it's pretty poor.
It's low. It is.
Still, Aguero manages a brace. Someone stop that man.
Yeah, I know. And but again, he really, that second goal was horrific defending from Palace. They left him completely open. But Sam, let's get straight into the VAR one, the VAR incident, because personally, I think it's one of the most interesting VAR incidents of the season.
I agree, absolutely.
Now,
I want to hear your opinion on it first, and then I'll give you mine.
All right. Well, when I watched it, Riedewald, it looked pretty clear-cut handball. Mm-hmm. The camera was sort of behind his back, but most of, I think most of the crowd, obviously, because it was at the Etihad, but most of people watching thought, oh, yeah, that's a penalty. 70th minute penalty. Here we go. City are going to, have a chance to equalise. And then it went to VAR and it hit his foot and then bounced into his hand. And look, I got reminded of an incident in the World Cup, actually. I think it was the Nigeria versus Argentina game.
I can't say I remember that game.
Well, it was pretty much the exact same thing happened. I can't remember the player that happened to, but pretty much the exact same thing happened.
Yep.
And VAR got involved in this one as well. And I thought at the time the decision in that game was wrong. And again, I had my doubts over this one. But Sam, you've come to a little idea that it might have been correct, and you're pretty sure it is correct.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's correct given I have the law here.
All right.
So, off the bat, the VAR was correct. Now, let me get a bit legal on your ass.
All right.
Law 12, it states, the handball isn't usually an offence when the ball comes off your own body and hits your hand. So they've got it right.
So, yeah, that pretty much, it's just one sentence, bang. It is right.
That's all you need to say. There's not a lot you can really do about it. It's literally there. So the ball, when it comes off your own body and hits your hand,
it's considered incidental.
And I think that's fair. I mean, I feel like handball.
If you watch the play, it's so unlucky because it's a genuine defender's block of a cross. There is nothing he can do. And he did the right thing. Yeah. He put his foot in front of the ball.
That's not, it can't be a handball. I've always subscribed to the opinion that for a handball to be called a handball, it has to be an intentional. You have to be putting your hand intentionally where the ball is going to be to stop the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
at least have a little. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's a bit stiff to have a ricochet. And it's
very, especially off yourself.
It's also very different if you've got an instinct. I don't know if a lot of football players have this instinct being football players, but to stick your hand out, that's completely different because that's intentional still. But
yeah. I
think they got it right. And I think it's better for the game, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. I was happy that wasn't given once I learnt the rule.
Yeah.
Now I'll get into Man City first because they're obviously the team that we learn most about when they don't win.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed in two specific players, and these players who have been the last 24 months been unbelievable. But this season they've either scored 2 goals and assisted, or been absolutely nowhere. And they were Raheem Sterling and Bernardo Silva, and both were really poor. I thought both played way too safe. There was absolutely no risk-taking. Both players went at 90% passing accuracy. And now I know I'm big on my passing accuracy, but for a winger, you almost don't want it to be that high.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is...
playing too safe, you think?
Yeah. I just didn't like... And it comes back to City only had 6 shots on target, and these two were a big reason why. Bernardo Silva only made 4 passes forward. That was 10%. And Sterling only went forward 17% of the time.
But remember, you are talking about wingers. And, like, they can't expect to be passing forward too much of the time. Like, surely it's a minimal stat for them.
That is true, but I then want to compare it to wingers this weekend in the league. Keeping in mind, half these teams lost or drew.
Okay. Everyone drew this week.
Yeah, true. Willian, 30% of his passes went forward, and he also had 4 shot assists. Neto went just 20% forward, but also had a shot assist. Pepe went 25% forward and had 2 shot assists. Mane went 27% forward and had 2 shot assists. Now, the lowest there is Pepe, and that's reasonably close to Sterling, 17%, but Sterling didn't get a shot assist. And I'm just, obviously each game is different and has its own circumstances, but I just felt that those two really were just passing it around the box, almost typical Man City, but it was a disappointing typical Man City.
Yeah, well, and I noticed one thing. I noticed Pep's substitution. So after City went ahead, he brought Sterling off and brought Rodrigo on. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me of a conversation we had on this podcast a few weeks, months ago, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And it was when we talked about when a team goes up and they bring on the defensive sub straight away, or,
late in the game.
Late in the game. And I'm thinking, does that change the mindset of the team to go too defensive and sit back too much instead of keep trying to attack? And is that a factor in them letting through the late goal again?
I think it certainly invites pressure onto them. But the problem is every team does it. It's just the way managers, go about it. It seems to be a very common thing in the football world. But for mine, I think managers with a resume avoid the criticism. Mm. I think we've seen Klopp do it multiple times. We've, of course, seen Pep do it a few times. I think the one we were talking about was maybe the United-Sheffield game, where I think Solskjaer brought on Twanzebe, and United conceded, pretty soon after that to make it 3-3. So, when it doesn't come off, managers come under scrutiny, but when they do make the sub and it works, no one comments on it.
I feel like it's a lose-lose.
Yeah.
It's genuinely a lose-lose. You don't make the sub, they get scored. Why didn't you make the defensive sub? The other way, and then the other way speaks for itself. Obviously.
Yeah, I think it's really harsh to criticize it, but at the same time, on face value, you have to understand why people outside of football, don't understand why you would do it.
Yeah, no, 100% agree.
Anyway, let's just switch our attention to Crystal Palace, because it's definitely worth mentioning them. And we can talk about how poor and safe Man City were, but you've definitely got to give credit to Crystal Palace here. And the man on debut, Cenk Tosun, the Turkish man.
The Turkish international.
He
from Everton.
He on loan from Everton. He's now the most, in the top 3 capped Turkish players in the Premier League now.
Really?
Yeah.
Call me if I'm completely wrong here, but going back to his Everton debut, didn't he start ridiculously? Didn't he get a hat-trick or something?
Geez, Sam, you've really thrown me under the bus here. I wouldn't have a clue. I'm going to search the. Actually, I'm going to search it up right now whilst we can continue discussing this.
I actually think he had a ridiculous start, because I remember when I used to play FIFA that one of the YouTubes I used to watch was a big fan because he had a ridiculous start to his Everton career, and everyone's like, "Oh, Cenk Tosun, what a man!" So. I don't know. It could be. But going on to his stats of this game while Damon gets that up, he had 2 shots, 1 goal, and 5 of 5 successful take-ons. And out of 23 duels, he won 13. So
he was getting to every contest.
He was getting to every
23 duels in a game. It's I'm pretty sure the most passes on the team for Crystal Palace was the goalkeeper, Guaita.
Yeah.
So it gives you a reflection of
how the game went.
Yeah, certainly. And now, Sam, I've got it up. In his Everton debut, he played 61 minutes in a 4-0 loss to Tottenham.
All right, what about his second game?
He scored his first goal for a club in a 2-1 away loss to Burnley.
I've got that horribly wrong. That's so grim. That's really bad.
And it's all right. To be honest, I'm pretty amazed that I've even found that. It was pretty difficult. Well, not difficult, but I'm surprised it wasn't as difficult.
It's a bit off script.
Yeah, off script, but no, that's all right. I quick Google search.
It just shows my knowledge depth right there.
Anyway, Sammy, I just think I would probably say that the most interesting thing that came out of the game was 2 quotes from the same man from Cenk Tosun. All right. Now, firstly, in 2017, when the transfer failed to Crystal Palace, he said, about my transfer to Crystal Palace, I can say that I'm very happy that the move failed. Well, mate, now you're there 3 years later.
Yeah.
But he also said something really interesting after the game, and that was, it was nice to be told to go out and win the game when playing against Manchester City for the first time. So, as in...
That says a bit about...
Everton and their past managers. I think he said something about, it was nice to not be told to do nothing and sit back.
It was nice not to be told to not lose.
Yeah.
Which means,
Yeah.
it's a very different
To go out and win.
dialogue to go out and we want you boys to win. So it tells you a lot about the manager's belief in the players he's got.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably a reflection of the way Palace have gone about it this season. They've beaten Man United at Old Trafford. They've now drawn against Manchester City. They pushed Liverpool real hard at home. They've again pushed Chelsea a reasonable amount. I think they only lost 2-0, but they were in that game for a while. So they've performed well against the big clubs. I think the only one they really fell apart in was a 4-0 loss to Tottenham. So, they've been doing really well this season, even with injuries. I look at guys like Riedewald, Kelly, Cahill, and Tompkins at the back.
Yeah.
I mean, they were massive. They cleared everything. I think of Kelly's last-ditch header just before City actually scored their second. Just little moments in the game that, as we said, the Crystal Palace goalkeeper had the most touches on the field for them. They were defending for 90 minutes, and they did it well.
They got a point out of it.
It's just the way you got to go about it at the Etihad. But when your defence is doing that, it gives guys like Cenk Tosun, Zaha, all these types of guys to go on and try and win the game rather than help defend.
A bit of life in them.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
So, anyway, Pep now has conceded, or Manchester City, I should say, conceded the first goal in their last 6 of 9 home league games.
That's huge.
That's as many as the first 60 games under Guardiola.
That's an unbelievable stat.
They have capitulated this Manchester City team, and
they're lucky everyone else is so bad.
Yeah, they actually are. And, I've seen a few people on social media start to question whether they are going to make top 4. And I think...
Is Pep the right man, Dame? Is he on the chopping block as well?
Actually, I'll ask you a question here, Sammy. Is Pep Guardiola going to be the manager of Manchester City on day 1 of next season?
Yes, probably. I reckon.
You don't think he might jump ship? I won't say jumping off the Titanic, because City definitely aren't the Titanic, but you'd have to say that...
He would explore his options.
Do you think Champions League success might have something to do with it? Do you think they can win a trophy this season?
No. I don't think they can win a major trophy this season, no.
I think they'll probably win the Carabao Cup.
I don't count that as a major trophy.
Fair enough.
When I think major, I think Europa, Champions, and Premier League.
And FA Cup. Yeah. Yeah, spot on. I think, Man City might really struggle to go, far at all in the Champions League.
Well, their Champions League history precedes them. They're not that good in it for some reason.
It's really not great.
It's really poor, and for a team that's been so dominant in the home league, it's
bizarre.
It is bizarre.
Anyway, shall we move on to a segment that we haven't had for quite a while? Actually,
a long time. I can't remember the last time.
I'm pretty keen to get stuck into it. So let's get stuck into on or offside.
All right, Damon, here we go. First one in a while, I'm going to give it to you.
All right.
The Premier League is a better place with Pepe Reina in it.
Massive onside. The Spanish goalkeeper recently signed last week by Aston Villa during the obviously January transfer window. And this obviously has a lot to do with the Tom Heaton long-term injury. And the reason it's an onside is because of his introduction song that he did. I think it sort of looked like their lunch break at the training grounds. He sang that Spanish song, La Bamba. You know that one? It's like, La Bamba, La Bamba. And he did it so well. Like, honestly, I reckon I replayed the video, 10 to 15 times just because he did it so well. And you could tell he was happy to, be back in the Premier League. Even, funny enough, the video of him sprinting down the whole field when Liverpool scored against Man United at Anfield back in 10 years ago now.
A bit of a legend, Pepe Reina.
And he like sprinted down. And then funny enough, this weekend, Alisson did the exact same thing. And he said it was because he watched the Pepe Reina video. So yeah, like obviously he's a great character and every club he goes to, he leaves a lasting impression. So it's fantastic to have him back. Sammy.
Go on then.
Goal line technology is officially now the best introduction to the Premier League ever.
Huge onside, Damon. Unlike the VAR, the goal line technology is clear-cut and absolute truth.
It's so good.
Wow, wow, wow. That final effort from Lamela against Watford, where the ball was literally like a millimetre
I couldn't.
off the line. Like, what?
It's unexplainable if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's go and look at it. But, like, if that technology isn't there, that goal scored and Tottenham lose.
Yeah, actually, it would have been interesting to see what decision the referee makes.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll never know.
Damon, I got another one for you.
Alrighty.
Inter Milan are putting every other club to shame when it comes to their activity in the current transfer market.
Look, it's actually easier to say onside here, but I'm going to say offside for now. Because all I'm saying right now is it's easy to sign players especially when they're out of favour at a club, but making them a successful signing is the hard bit. So far, Lukaku, you'd have to give that a tick. He's been dominating in the Serie A. Alexis Sanchez, although Man United are paying a large amount of his salary still, he's been injured pretty much the whole time he's been at Inter Milan. Now just signed Ashley Young. Obviously, that's still a question mark at 34 years of age. And they've been linked with Eriksen, Moses, and Giroud. Of course, Giroud and Moses played under Antonio Conte. So there's a little bit of a link there. And of course, Eriksen, Conte still would have had a first-hand look at how good he can be. So, a lot of these guys surely have the potential to be really good at Inter Milan. So this could turn into an onside. But for now, I just think if this potentially went wrong for Inter Milan, then you wonder how long it would set them back as a club off-field. Do you know what I mean? Like we've seen
absolutely.
What can happen to clubs when they financially invest big.
Yeah. Just look at Manchester United.
That is very, very true. But, you look at other teams like Leeds cut like 10 to 15 years ago as well. So they took a hit and it's taken them a while.
Liverpool of the early 2000s.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. Sammy, last one. Woody's return next week is an essential one for the Premier League Nightclub.
I don't think I've ever been more sure of an offside. I mean, I think we've been all right. He was worried about giving the reins away, as we all know, because he's a little control man. But it's been killing him not being here, and it's going to kill him even more when we don't let him back on, I reckon.
He's got involved in the docu and he's used some pretty horrific language, which we're not going to repeat.
Yeah,
but he's a little bit offended.
I'll see you in the NT, mate. You little gypsy.
I reckon he has messaged us or me individually. I don't know about you, Sam, but at least 15 to 20 times about how jealous he is
of Ollie Gill.
Yeah.
Why don't you just talk to him on the phone, mate?
Yeah. We've got his number. Alrighty, that pretty much wraps up all the segments we have for today. Of course, as just mentioned, the Woodra will be returning next week. If you're listening to this before the midweek games, it's come out probably on a Tuesday, so the new round starts tomorrow, and in which case, give this a listen pretty quickly if you haven't already. If you've just skipped to the end for some reason.
If for some reason you're just like, I'm going to listen to the last 10 seconds of the podcast.
Anyway, we've got...
Good call.
And then it's about a week after till the next round of games. So we're going to be reviewing the midweek games in about a week from now. So stay tuned for that. Woody will be back. We'll all be back. And,
hope you apologise in advance.
Yeah, we do. And I hope your team wins this week and has... everyone have a good week because we won't hear from you for a week. Sammy, you happy to wrap it up?
Happy to wrap it up.
If they want to find us on the socials?
At Premier League Nightclub on Instagram.
And at PL Nightclub on Twitter. And I'm pretty sure we've almost confirmed that we're going to be making a TikTok because every time I rock up to the recording room, Sam's like, we need to make a TikTok. So that's pretty much going to happen inevitably, but I don't know how successful it'll be, but we'll give it a go. On that note, I'm out of here.
Flop. This cost me my podcast. Don't let it flop, Damon.
I won't let it flop.
You don't get what that means, do you? You're obviously not on TikTok.
All right, fine. I'm not going to bag TikTok because we're about to be on it. But anyway, I'm done. I'm out of here. See you, Sammy.
Yeah.